Professor Bunauer at the Strasbourg Zoological Museum said, evolution is a fairy tale for grown-ups. Long ago and far away. Isn't that what evolution says? He says, the theory has helped nothing in the progress of science. It is useless. On my video number 7, question-answer, I've got now an entire giant list of scientists who believed in creation all through history and today. The guy who invented the MRI machine is a creationist. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of scientists. All of the major branches of science were started by creationists. Now, they weren't all independent, temperamental, fundamental, right-wing, radical Baptists like me, but they were creationists, okay? They believed in a creator. So can anybody name me, and I ask this question to professors in debates frequently, can you name me one scientific advancement we have because of the evolution theory? Is that why we have light bulbs? Is that why we have computers? Is that why we have been able to go to the moon? Has the space program... Now, a lot of money is spent on the space program to try to prove evolution. No question. But what part of evolution theory caused the space program? He's right. The theory is useless. Even if it's true, it's useless. And if it's not true, it's dangerous. It's worse than useless. Malcolm Muggeridge spoke at University of Waterloo. I've spoken there. That's where the girl with the blue hair and all the ears pierced 15 times and tattoos on her neck, and she came up. It was so funny. Here I am speaking on creation in the University of Waterloo, you know, Canada. A whole crowd of students gathered around, you know, and we had gotten permission to set up a table and a microphone and draw a crowd. And boy, did we draw a crowd. It's a very liberal university. And she walked right up. Here I am speaking away, you know, and talking to the crowd. And she walks up right in front of me and says, "You got permission to do this?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, we do." She said, "This is kind of weird." That's all I could do to maintain my composure. "Lady, you want to see weird? Come with me. Let's go find a mirror. I will show you weird." I mean, hair about that long and all bright blue, you know. I don't care if you're going to cut your hair and call it blue, but don't call me weird, all right? Malcolm Muggeridge said, "I myself am convinced the theory of evolution, especially the extent to which it has been applied, will be one of the great jokes in the history books of the future. Posterity will marvel that so flimsy and dubious an hypothesis could be accepted with the incredible credulity that it has." Why would so many smart people, smart in other areas, accept this theory? He's right. Someday, they're going to be laughing at those people who believe in evolution. But in the meantime, it accomplishes the goal of keeping them from Christ, or if they're Christians, of keeping them from being bold Christians, because they got all these questions. You were saying how you were taught this stuff in school. I'm telling you, it'll destroy your faith. If you're already saved, it'll neutralize you. If you're not saved, it'll probably keep you from getting saved. That's exactly what Satan wants. He's a liar. He doesn't care how he gets it done. Just get the job done. This man said, "Scientists who go about teaching that evolution is a fact of life are great con men. The story they are teaching may be the greatest hoax ever. In explaining evolution, we do not have one iota of fact." I was debating Pigliucci at the University of Knoxville, Tennessee. He's a botany professor. He spent 30 years teaching evolution of plants. He's been teaching it for 30 years. He's received $655,000 grant money to study the evolution of plants. I said, "Dr. Pigliucci, what is your best evidence for evolution?" He said, "The fossil evidence of whales." Now hold it. How come your best evidence you have is in somebody else's field? I don't think he'll ever catch on to that, but I mean, that ought to dawn on somebody. Like, he thinks the paleontologists have the evidence. Now, if you ask a paleontologist, "What's your best evidence of evolution?" "Oh, the evolution of plants. We've got it proven in the botany department." Okay. It's one of those shell games. Yeah, nobody has the evidence. Okay, there isn't any. Pierre de Chardin was a Catholic priest, kind of a renegade Catholic priest. He is one of the fellows involved in the Piltdown hoax. He may have been the guy who did it. We don't know, okay? Pierre de Chardin has a very shady history. Okay, he is probably one of the primary fellows, if not the primary fellow, responsible for getting the Catholics to accept evolution. 3 different times, popes have come out and said, evolution fits our religion just fine, except for when God gave them a soul. Basically like Hugh Ross teaches, okay? Hugh Ross gets along great with the Catholics as far as their doctrine of, evolution blending in with creation. Pierre de Chardin said, evolution is a general postulate to which all theories, all hypotheses, must henceforth bow in order to be thinkable and true. Evolution is a light which illuminates all facts, which all lines of thought must follow. This is what evolution is. I'd say he's kind of committed to the theory, wouldn't you? My Bible says God's Word is a light. It's a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. Evolution is not a light that everybody must follow. But if a kid goes to school 12 or 16 or 20 years in our town, now you got to understand, Escambia County is one of the top counties in the country as far as churches per capita. I think Santa Rosa County is in the Guinness Book of World Records. There are more churches per person in that county, I believe, than any place else in the United States. And I think we're a close second. We're certainly up in the top 2 or 3 percentage points in all the counties in America. Here we have, I think, 120 Baptist churches in this county. Probably well over 200 churches of other denominations. There's an awful lot of churches in this county. And yet kids are going to go to school in this county and learn all these things that have been proven wrong for many years. What are we doing about it? We're supposed to be the salt of the earth. Salt preserves. When I first moved to town, I started writing letters to the editor about evolution. That's what started my whole ministry, writing letters to the editor. I went down and talked to Katie Knight, the lady in charge of selecting the science curriculum. I went in and I said, look, you're teaching things in these books that have been proven wrong a long time ago. After several meetings with her and letters back and forth, she said, Mr. Hovind, you are the only person in the entire county who's complaining about this. Well, first, I hope that's not true. But if it is true, that's a sad commentary on Christians. We got a lot of Christians are more worried about who wins some dumb Super Bowl game than what the kids are going to be taught tomorrow that's going to affect their life possibly forever. Certainly for this life it's going to affect them. And it has cost, all 3 of my kids are in the room here tonight. You know, when we started this ministry 12 years ago, it's cost you 3. Dad was gone a lot. I'm still gone a lot. I take this battle seriously. It's been a sacrifice for my family. It's been a sacrifice for me personally. This is a war, folks. You guys in the Marines are willing to go off to war, leave your family, possibly get killed. Praise God. I'm glad you're out there defending my freedoms. Well, I'm out there defending your freedoms on this creation evolution topic. We need some more people doing that. Salt preserves. Our job is to preserve from corruption. We're not doing it. Salt also irritates. If nobody's irritated at you, you're probably not a very good Christian. You can pretty much tell how good a Christian somebody is by how many people hate him. Everybody says, oh, you should love, love, love. Yeah, I do. If you love God, people will hate you. If nobody hates you, then you don't love God very well, do you? So why do people believe in this theory anyway? Why would anybody believe we came from a rock? Well, some people believe it because that's all they've ever been taught. When I spoke in the university in Chernovsy, Ukraine, they had 30 professors. Are you from Chernovsy? You're from Russia, not Ukraine, right? Okay. You're from Chernovsy? Okay. When I was in your town in Ukraine, I spoke at the university. 30 professors came, sat in the room. I spoke for 2 hours. These 30 professors sitting in the room, I'm speaking for 2 hours through an interpreter. After 1 hour of speaking on creation and evolution, one of the professors began to cry. There was a lady interpreting for me. They had several interpreters. I wear them out because I talk kind of fast, At the time, there was a lady interpreting for me. I said, ma'am, what's he crying about? And she said, oh, he's happy. He didn't know there was a creation story. He's never heard of this. He wants you to keep going. All he's ever heard all of his life is evolution. Last week, I spoke in Seattle, Washington, 4 different Russian churches, about 1,000 people each time. People came to me afterwards and said, we've never heard this stuff. You see, in Soviet Union, creation was censored out. Capitalism was censored out. Guess what? In America, creationism is censored out. I went to a library one time. I go to a lot of libraries. I don't remember where it was even, but I got in this massive library with some university. I got on their computer Erica search program, and I said, how many books do you have in here about evolution? 1,400 titles. How many books by? And I typed in some major evolutionist authors, you know, Stephen Gould, Niles Eldredge, and these kind of guys. Buku books. Okay, there's libraries jammed with books on evolution. So I typed in to see how many books there were on creation. Up came about 9 titles. All of them were anti-creation books. Books written by evolutionists against creation. But the search program caught it as having the word creation in the title or the subject, okay? So I went to the librarian. I said, ma'am, why do you have 1,400 books about evolution and no books about creation? I searched under all the major creation authors. Henry Morris, Dwayne Gish, Ken Ham, all of them I could think of, okay? 0. I said, ma'am, this is a university. I thought students are coming here to get educated. It looks to me like they're only getting indoctrinated. You don't even have a balance in your library. I'm sure you don't have it in your classroom. I said, why don't you have any books in here about creation? She said, we do have a book in here about creation. I put it in here myself. I said, oh, what is it? She told me the name of it. I said, where's that from? She said, from the Watchtower Society. Oh, well, yeah, you got one Jehovah's Witness book in here about creation, and the rest are, and even they believe in the gap theory or the day-age theory, something like that. They believe the Earth is, you know, billions of years old, so they're no help. They're no help in a lot of areas, but I think an awful lot of folks believe this theory because they simply have never heard the other side. Now, I think it doesn't take somebody too intelligent to realize if creation and evolution were both taught to the students, equal time, fair, honest, balanced treatment, which one would the students believe? Creation. Right? They don't want that. They don't want the competition because they'd lose. I believe it was John D. Rockefeller, one of those multi-gazillionaires in the last century, who said competition is a sin. When he was developing Standard Oil Company to the monster company that it was, let's suppose there's 10 gas stations in a town. Rockefeller would buy 6 of them, 7 of them. And back then, let's say gas is going for 20 cents a gallon. It costs the station 18 cents a gallon. They sell it, make 2 cents. He would lower his price to 16. He would lose money for months on those 6 stations in that town. What's going to happen to the other 4 gas stations? They're going to go out of business. He's going to buy them. Now he owns all 10. Now guess what happens to the price of gas? 22 cents a gallon. We've got to make up for what we lost, you know. That's exactly what happened all over. His philosophy was competition is a sin. Eliminate the competition. That's the philosophy of the evolutionist in the classroom. They don't want the kids to see the other side. And because of this, many kids have never even heard about the creation story. Many kids in Escambia County have never had a fair shake on the creation story. Here's a Russian textbook. Guess what they use for evidence for evolution? Same stuff they use here. It's the same all over the world. I think people believe in evolution because their job depends upon it. If a professor at the University of West Florida up here in Pensacola if one of the biology or anthropology or geology or botany, any of the sciences, if they got up in front of their class tomorrow morning, or Jan at PJC where you teach, if a science teacher gets up tomorrow and says, students, I don't believe evolution anymore. I believe in creation. What's going to happen? they're going to lose their job. If they're tenured, where they can't lose their job because they got 20 years teaching there, they will demote them to something, janitor, lab assistant. They will put them in a position where they cannot influence other students with their radical ideas. Dean Kenyon, K-E-N-Y-O-N, he was a biology professor, university in California, I think San Francisco State or Stanford, I don't remember which one. He wrote books about evolution. He believed in evolution. For 20 years, he was the poster boy of the evolutionists. He got converted. Then he wrote a book, which we sell in our library, called Of Pandas and People. Great supplemental biology book. He never mentions God. He just says, look how well designed this is. Somebody must have designed this, you know. There must be intelligence behind this. When he talks about the bones in the wrist or, you know, any part of the biology. They actually fired him because he became a creationist. There was a lawsuit over it. He got his job back. They put him in as a lab assistant. Usually college juniors and seniors do that, you know. Clean up the test tubes, please. They tried everything to keep that guy, get him out of there. If he had not been tenured with 20 years, you know, tenured, they can't fire him, he'd have been out the door. When we get to part 7, I've been collecting for years now a list of people who have lost their jobs because they became creationists. That's the reason. And we'll get into more of that probably by the time we get to CSE 1020 at the time we're going here, or at the rate we're going here. Okay, but we'll get there eventually. Some people honestly like this theory because they hope there's no God. Evolution is the only way to explain why are we here without bringing God into the equation. I mean, how did we get here? The 4 great questions of life. Who are we? Why are we here? Where are we going when we die? Those questions can only be answered with either somebody made us or we made ourselves. And a lot of people really like evolution because it removes God from the equation and they get to be God. Some people believe in evolution because they have social, political reasons. Evolution is the foundation for communism, socialism, Marxism, Nazism. We'll get into all that in a couple of weeks. More on the history of this evolutionary theory. Some simply have too much pride to admit they're wrong. I do debates with professors. I'll point out clearly, look, you're wrong right here. The audience will agree, yep, you're wrong. He goes on to a new topic. They never admit, okay, I'm wrong. I've never had an opponent in a debate do that. I spent all day today editing the Pigliucci debate number 12 that we're offering now. And that's why it's fresh in my mind. I saw it about 20 times in there, you know. You're wrong. He would never say, yeah, you're right, I'm wrong. The Bible says in 2 Thessalonians, for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. If anybody believes we came from a rock, first place, that's a lie, and you have to be deluded to believe that. So, our textbooks in our county right here, there's a bunch on the table right there, contain things that have been proven wrong many years ago. What should we do about it? What are the practical steps? If I announce tonight that I have discovered top secret information that a truckload of tainted, poisonous milk was delivered to all the public schools this afternoon after the schools closed. They're going to serve it for breakfast and lunch tomorrow. You follow me? I've got secret information that a truckload of poisoned milk was sent to the schools. It's going to be delivered tomorrow. How would you feel? What would you do about it? Well, folks, a truckload of poisonous books was sent to our schools months ago. It's going to be fed to the kids tomorrow. Let's find something to do about it.